Thank you, Professor Prishman Raj. May I now call upon Professor Ramanujam, Pro-Vice Chancellor IGNOU, for remarks.
Respected Vice Chancellor, delegates, colleagues. First of all, let me congratulate the wonderfully organized conference and the contribution made by both the schools, School of Executive Studies and School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies. This is one of the best organized conferences, organized very silently without much noise, and I'm really pleased to make some remarks on the second day of this conference at the concluding session. I could not attend many sessions. I was there on the registration day, and in between I could go through the abstracts and also the themes. There was a time when we talked about the diaspora, people became nostalgic, and I am somewhat familiar with the diasporic literature contributed by people like Jhumpa Lahiri and other Indian writers who write about India and their countries where they are living as Indians. But now things are changing very fast, and therefore there is an urgent need to revisit the definition of diaspora due to the increasing networking that is possible through the globalization process, particularly through communication technologies. I think we have to even look at whether we mean diaspora in the same sense we meant, say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's very important because globalization essentially means continuous flow of finance capital and continuous intermixing of cultures, languages, communications through technologies, and then it has its own impact on labor migration, which was the backbone of diaspora in the 50s and 60s. Now the trend is reversed. I think the migration of people in physical form is decreasing, but the contribution to other countries through technologies is increasing, and therefore we are not unfamiliar. Somebody from even a small town of India can do the job for American companies located in California or New York or elsewhere in Europe. So this also has a bearing on what we mean by diaspora now. The second important thing is the increasing network has implications not only for our ordinary day-to-day life and issues, but for the very survival of the nations which had distinct identities, but now the national identities are merging with each other. And this kind of merging throws up all kinds of issues. Some are positive and some are negative. If a small incident takes place, I think the last session this was highlighted, in a particular part of the world, the repercussions are felt globally, and therefore there is nothing strictly local anymore about anything, and that has implications for our education also. In the increasing, when the trend of internationalization and cross-border education is becoming a very vibrant reality, now we have to revisit the very definition of diaspora. And I was just talking to some of my colleagues before I was suddenly requested to come here and make some remarks. We must now undertake, both at this university and elsewhere, more and more comparative diasporic studies. I suggested that we could start with a comparison of diaspora in the context of India and China, how they contribute not only to the knowledge in general and the scientific world in particular, and how they contribute to the development of science and technology or education and culture in their own countries. The second suggestion I would like to make is to carry out some kind of studies with predictive value. After 10 or 15 years, what would be the scenario when we think about diaspora, will there be still relevance to talk about the distinct national identities, or will it undergo some kind of change? Can we predict that through our own empirical studies? This will be another suggestion from my side. And I'm sure the delegates who have come from 28 countries and the delegates who have come from India must have enjoyed thoroughly the intense participation, discussions, questions, as well as the food and stay. I wish all the best for the delegates to continue to contribute to this theme in future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I invite Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajshekharan Pillai, to give the presidential address.
Mr. Gurikaran, CEO of the Indian Council of Overseas Employment, Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs, Government of India, Professor Vich Maharaj from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, how do I pronounce? KwaZulu-Natal. South Africa, my colleagues from the university, Professor Ramanujam, Professor Sharavanan, Professor Patnaik, Dr. Sadananda Sahu, distinguished delegates as well as the resource person, ambassador. First of all, let me congratulate each and every one of you for the very efficient conduct of the two-day conference on diaspora and development, with reference to its implications for the nation states. I also congratulate both the schools for effectively doing this job. If you just look at diaspora in terms of development, you can see that right from prehistoric times, in the area of education and health, large number of people have been migrating from this country, particularly from India. Large number of people have been migrating to foreign, particularly in African countries and also in developed countries like the European countries and the USA. I come from a state, Kerala. I know large number of primary school teachers who are, whenever I go to African countries, I see large number of primary school teachers who have gone maybe several decades, maybe more than 100 years ago, and then getting established there, and then contributing to the development back to the state. Similarly, and these teachers have in some of the countries, they have shaped the primary school education system, and in return, the state, for example, the state of Kerala has been specifically benefiting out of the resources from the teachers, from the returns from these employees. Similarly, in the area of health, large number of nurses, of course doctors are also there, large number of nurses have been going to the European countries, particularly in Germany, and also in African countries. This also has contributed significantly to the income in a state like Kerala. Similarly, for establishing trade and commerce, large number of people have been migrating. All these things have contributed to the development of a particular state. Of course, I see that there was a paper on Punjab and Kerala in the deliberations, how such migrations have contributed to the development of these two states. Things have drastically changed. For example, some of the people who have migrated long ago or working long ago, they didn't have an opportunity to return to their country. Maybe they will be returning once in a year or once in 5 years, like that. Now things are totally changed. With the technology, with the facilitation of technology, and with the facilitation of transport, I think there is lot of exchanges happening between the diaspora. and this can be positively taken for development, and we can just look at the social implications, cultural implications, as well as the economic implications of all these things. So a lot of positive things are happening through such exchanges, and Indian diaspora in numbers maybe it is very high, and we can see that this movement across the globe is also reflected in the movements which are happening in our own country itself. So, this is true for all the other nation states. I'm very confident that the type of deliberations which you had and the exchanges which you had in these conferences, that will lead to some sort of concrete action plan, which will lead to positive development of all the countries which are in this moment. And let me appreciate the efforts, appreciate the support given by the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs and other two organizations which supported this activity. As I mentioned yesterday, when the Secretary was here, I had occasion to interact with Ms. Gurcharan also when we organized the Diasporic Literature Conference, and we will take up the establishment of the Center for Diasporic Studies in a concrete way, and we are confident that the recommendations which are emanating out of this meeting, that will also add to a concrete foundation for the proposed Center for Diasporic Studies, which Indira Gandhi National Open University is planning. And as a university, we are unique in that, in the sense that we have a large number of students from almost all the countries, 47 countries, and India, the Pan-African network, which we started in 2008, is now 2007 is now going to be India Africa Virtual University, which is announced jointly by the India and the African Union. Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, during his recent visit to Addis Ababa, he announced that this Pan-African network is going to be transformed into an India-Africa Virtual University. I think these virtual activities can also contribute significantly to development. We will look into all the possibilities for such a concrete stabilization of all these ideas. Thank you very much.